In a sequence of bestsellers, including The Language Instinct and How the Mind Works, Pinker has argued the swathes of our mental, social and emotional lives may have originated as evolutionary adaptations, well suited to the lives our ancestors eked out on the Pleistocene savanna. Sometimes it seems as if nothing is immune from being explained this way. Road rage, adultery, marriage, altruism, our tendency to reward senior executives with corner offices on the top floor, and the smaller number of women who become mechanical engineers, all may have their roots in natural selection, Pinker claims. The controversial implications are obvious, that men and women might differ in their inborn abilities at performing certain tasks, for example, or that parenting may have little influence on personality.
Never has the carbon footprint of multinational corporations been under such intense scrutiny. Intercity train journeys and long-haul flights to conduct face-to-face business meetings contribute significantly to greenhouse gases and the resulting strain on the environment. The Anglo-US company Teleris has introduced a new video conferencing technology and partnered with the carbon-neutral company, enabling corporate outfits to become more environmentally responsible. The innovation allows simulated face-to-face meetings to be held across continents without the time, pressure or environmental burden of international travel. Previous designs have enabled video conferencing on a point-to-point, dual-location basis. The firm's Virtual Live technology, however, can bring people together from up to 5 separate locations anywhere in the world, with unrivaled transmission quality. Australian government provided regular funding for universities from the late 1950s. In 1974, it assumed full responsibility for funding higher education, abolishing tuition fees with the intention of making university accessible to all Australians who had the ability and who wished to participate in higher education. Since the late 1980s, there has been a move towards greater private contributions, particularly students' fees. In 1989, the Australian government introduced the Higher Education Contribution Scheme, HECS, which included a loan scheme to help students finance their contributions. This enabled universities to remain accessible to students by delaying their payments until they could afford to pay off their loans.
In 2002, the Australian government introduced a scheme similar to HECS for postgraduate students, the Postgraduate Education Loan Scheme, PELS. Funding for higher education comes from various sources. This article examines the 3 main sources: Australian government funding, students' fees and charges, and HECS. While the proportion of total revenue raised through HECS is relatively small, HECS payments are a significant component of students' university costs, with many students carrying a HECS debt for several years after leaving university. This article also focuses on characteristics of university students based on their HECS liability status, and the level of accumulated HECS debt. Sound depressing, even apocalyptic. Well, it could be the future. If government forecasts are right, about 20 years from now, 2 out of 5 households will be single occupancy. And there is evidence the situation is already deteriorating. According to a report, Social Isolation in America, published in the American Sociological Review in 2006, The average American today has only 2 close friends. 25% of those surveyed said they do not have anyone to talk with about important things, and yet, while some are declaring a crisis in our ability to make friends, others are saying exactly the opposite. For example, MSN's Anatomy of Friendship report, published last November, suggests that the average Briton has 54 friends, a spectacular rise of 64% since 2003.
Like Ben Franklin, Thomas Alva Edison was both a scientist and an inventor. Born in 1847, Edison would see tremendous change take place in his lifetime. He was also to be responsible for making many of those changes occur. When Edison was born, society still thought of electricity as a novelty, a fad. By the time he died, entire cities were lit by electricity. Much of the credit for that progress goes to Edison. In his lifetime, Edison patented 1,093 inventions, earning him the nickname the Wizard of Menlo Park. The most famous of his inventions was the incandescent light bulb. Besides the light bulb, Edison developed the phonograph and the kinetoscope, a small box for viewing moving films. He also improved upon the original design of the stock ticker, the telegraph, and Alexander Graham Bell's telephone. He believed in hard work, sometimes working 20 hours a day. Edison was quoted as saying, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." In tribute to this important American, electric lights in the United States were dimmed for 1 minute on October 21, 1931, a few days after his death.
Impressionism was a 19th-century art movement that began as a loose association of Paris-based artists who started publicly exhibiting their art in the 1860s. Characteristics of Impressionist painting include visible brush strokes, light colors, open composition, emphasis on light in its changing qualities, often accentuating the effects of the passage of time, ordinary subject matter, and unusual visual angles. The name of the movement is derived from Claude Monet's impression, sunrise, impression, Soleil Levant. Critic Louis Leroy inadvertently coined the term in a satiric review published in Le Charivari. Radicals in their time, early Impressionists broke the rules of academic painting. They began by giving colors, freely brushed, primacy over line, drawing inspiration from the work of painters such as Eugene Delacroix. They also took the act of painting out of the studio and into the world. Previously, not only still lifes and portraits, but also landscapes had been painted indoors, but the Impressionists found that they could capture the momentary and transient effects of sunlight by painting air, in plain air.
The thing that makes it difficult is because even if life had evolved on Mars, the chances of being preserved are very small. If we use Earth as a reference, and our planet is teeming with life, yet it rarely preserves evidence of life of the fossil record. And the focus now is on exploring for habitable environments. If you're looking for water, a source of energy, either solar energy or thermal energy or chemical energy, and then, organic carbon, assuming life as we know it on Earth based on carbon. So those are sort of the 3 things that we're looking for in the course of our mission. How quickly this occurs depends on the dynamics of fertility, mortality and overseas migration. While a moderate pace of demographic change allows for gradual adjustment of the economy and policies to the changing population demographics, rapid changes are more difficult to manage. One way of applying a degree of perspective to the aging debate is to compare aging in Australia with that of other countries. This article examines the population structures in Australia and Japan and the demographic forces that shape the respective populations, both historically and projections for the future. The aging of the population is a major issue for Australian policymakers, particularly in regard to the long-term implications for reduced economic growth and the increasing demand for age pensions, and health and aged care services. As the population ages, growth in the number of people of working age will slow, while the proportion of people of retirement age will increase. Sustained population aging also leads to slowing or negative population growth. While declining population growth in developed countries is welcomed by some environmentalists and social scientists, economists tend to agree that population decline brings gloomy economic prospects. To put true creative power into the hands of any ordinary 3D printer owner, Gannon has developed an innovative new system called Tactum. Tactum is a new type of software that lets users create their own unique designs for 3D printers by simply touching a projected image. Using their innate hand gestures, someone using Tactum can poke, rub and otherwise manipulate the projected image that will become their 3D printed object, and see it instantly change shape in response. In keeping with the goal of democratizing the process, Gannon designed her first series of Tactum artifacts on a surface. Madeline Gannon is a researcher, teacher at the Carnegie Mellon University School of Architecture and PhD candidate in computational design, but that's not all. She is on a mission to open up the infinite design possibilities of 3D printing to the world. Currently you have to have a lot of technical background in order to participate in creating things for 3D printers, Gannon says. There is still a huge knowledge barrier for how we create digital models. As the technology has advanced, prices have plummeted, and now anyone can buy a 3D printer for a few $100, Gannon notes. The ways of life Upper Paleolithic people are known through the remains of meals scattered around their hearths, together with many tools and weapons and the debris left over from their making. The people were hunter-gatherers who lived exclusively from what they could find in nature without practicing either agriculture or herding. They hunted the bigger herbivores, while berries, leaves, roots, wild fruit and mushrooms probably played a major role in their diet. Their hunting was indiscriminate, perhaps because so many animals were about they did not need to spare pregnant females or the young. The process of researching and securing a dig site can take years. Digging is the field work of archaeology. On occasion, archaeologists might need to move earth with bulldozers and backhoes. Usually, however, archaeologists use tools such as brushes, hand shovels, and even toothbrushes to scrape away the earth around artifacts. The most common tool that archaeologists use to dig is a flat trowel. A trowel is a handheld shovel used for smoothing as well as digging. Archaeologists use trowels to slowly scrape away soil. For very small or delicate remains, archaeologists might also dig with dental picks, spoons, or very fine blades.
In a sustainable world that is achievable in the near future, water and related resources are managed in support of human well-being and ecosystem integrity in a robust economy. Sufficient and safe water is made available to meet every person's basic needs, with healthy lifestyles and behaviors easily upheld through reliable and affordable water supply and sanitation services, in turn supported by equitably extended and efficiently managed infrastructure. Water resources management, infrastructure and service delivery are sustainably financed.
Life in the UK 2012 provides a unique overview of well-being in the UK today. The report is the first snapshot of life in the UK to be delivered by the Measuring National Wellbeing Programme and will be updated and published annually. Well-being is discussed in terms of the economy, people and the environment. Information such as the unemployment rate or number of crimes against the person are presented alongside data on people's thoughts and feelings, for example, satisfaction with our jobs or leisure time and fear of crime. Together, a richer picture on how society is doing is provided.
There are so many reasons why, from fast food marketing to agriculture subsidies, but one contributing factor is the slow death of cooking, and the rise of the restaurant meal. Americans now spend more on food at restaurants than they do at grocery stores, but restaurant food tends to have even less fiber than the food we would otherwise eat at home. One problem seems to be that restaurant meals aren't typically loaded with two of the best sources of fiber, unprocessed fruits and vegetables. A revealing study from 2007, in which researchers interviewed 41 restaurant executives, showed that restaurants think fruits and vegetables are too expensive to feature prominently on the menu, and 61% said profits drive menu selections.
A massive tow truck worked Saturday to remove the remains of a burned-out oil tanker that exploded in a giant fireball overnight near the capital of Sierra Leone. Reuters' David Doyle has more. Deputy Health Minister Amara Jambai said the death toll currently stands at 99, with more than 100 people being treated in hospitals and clinics across the capital, Freetown. In a video from the scene shared online, the head of the National Disaster Management Agency, Brima Biosizi, said, "We've got so many casualties, burnt corpses," adding, "It's a terrible, terrible accident." Freetown's mayor said the extent of the damage from Friday's explosion was not yet known, adding that police and her deputy were at the scene to assist disaster management officials.
UNICEF is warning that schools in Haiti are increasingly at the mercy of gangs, with children becoming targets of robbery or ransom. The agency said Tuesday at least 7 schools in the capital of Port-au-Prince have been forced to pay unidentified gangs in exchange for security in the past 2 months, and that additional institutions have also been threatened. The warning comes days after authorities said gang members killed a university professor they had recently abducted. In addition, U.S. and Haitian authorities are still trying to secure release of 17 missionaries from a U.S. religious organization who were kidnapped on October 16 near the capital.